Okay, so that was Robbie Lyle of Arsenal Fan TV when he was here last week speaking to me just about their channel and also a lot of changes that are happening at Arsenal. Of course, at the very end of that interview, he was talking about Stan Kroenke and his view of him, still quite sceptical. Obviously, there's a lot of change there now with Stan Kroenke, Silent Stan as he's better known, actually taking further charge of the club and buying Usmanov's shares. Now, for the first time in the history of Team 33, we have Joe Coffey on proper video on Skype. Joe, from your car as well.
It's exciting times, Raf. You know, technology moves on and so does Team 33.
Yeah, certainly does. Now, we've been doing a few interviews on video as well, and of course, you didn't get a chance, you haven't had a chance, obviously, to listen to the Robbie Lyle interview, but just about Arsenal's summer. There was a sense that there was a bit more optimism coming into this now that Unai Emery is here, the Wenger era is over. Now, obviously, we were coming off the back of a World Cup that's only 2 or 3 weeks away, but were you starting to get a little bit excited about Arsenal's season?
Well, I'm still looking forward to the season, I suppose. Like, nothing's going to change. Like, fair enough, we now have a sole owner of Arsenal, which, from a fan's point of view, probably isn't, as history will teach you from other supporters, a foreign owner that has sole ownership of the club is usually not a good thing. But I think that it hasn't changed in terms of looking forward to the weekend. It hasn't changed that. I mean, nothing's going to change between now and Saturday, other than he might, who knows, try and buy a big name player to silence some criticism from the fans. You never know. Stranger things have happened. But I think that everybody will be interested to see how Arsenal perform against Man City.
They certainly will. The indication now, I haven't really seen a lot of their pre-season games, so it's hard to kind of gauge, but that they're doing a lot more of the off-the-ball stuff in terms of what's happening when they don't have it, in comparison to the Wenger era. And there have been a few little comments here and there. I think Hector Bellerin is one who's kind of come out and said they're doing a lot more, they're working harder, which...
He said they're working harder than they ever have before.
Would you take that if you were Wenger? I don't know how you'd feel if you're hearing former players.
I wouldn't be too critical of that. I mean, that could be, sometimes you say things without really thinking, and that is something you say. When you're going through your usual cliches, that's one of them that's up there. But obviously, with Wenger having left, you can interpret it a different way. But I think that you can't read anything into the friendly performances, other than at least they've been decent. But what I would be expecting, I would be disappointed if we don't see, is I'd actually be expecting the new manager bounce at Arsenal, even though he's not jumping into a job with the team in the middle of a season. I'd expect Arsenal to start quite strongly. They've quite a tough run of games to start the season, but I'd expect them to have. I'd expect a lot of optimism by September about how Arsenal are performing, to be honest with you. I don't expect them to actually win anything. You never know, they might win the Europa League this season. Their manager has a great record in the Europa League. But I wouldn't be expecting like a revolution, more so as an evolution initially, because it takes time to learn how to perform the way he might want to perform and to be thinking about all this off-the-ball stuff. But I would think that they would actually start quite strongly, and I'd be fairly confident they actually will get a result from the Man City game. I think that whether it's a draw or a win, I don't know, but I think they'll do quite decently. But the optimism, even though nothing's going to change between now and Saturday, the optimism, even about the signings and all that, would have been slightly tainted now by the news that Stan is taking sole ownership of the club. Because even the most worrying thing isn't the fact that he's buying out the Usmanov's shares. It's the fact that he said he's buying over all the 3% of remaining shares, and those 3% is taken up mainly by Arsenal supporters who just happen to buy some shares in the club whenever. The fact that he's buying them out as well, I mean, he could turn out to be great, but equally he could, and do great things. But equally, the opportunity is there now that he could strip the club dry of all its assets. In the past, he's taken out, I think there was 2 years in a row where he took out £3 million sterling as a wage that he paid himself for consultancy fees, and that was stopped when the fans got upset about it. There's nothing to stop him now. I mean, he had he won't have any. There'll be no one around to criticise because he's the boss. He's in charge of everybody. I mean, we're all well aware of Usmanov's criticism of the club in the past, where he'd say, "Oh well, Arsenal could be the." Well, I think his signing off was Arsenal could be the greatest club in the world. So he even got a shot in there before he left. But he's often said that he wanted to spend a lot more money on players, etc., etc. But he's been kept in the dark about the club, and that's why he's left ultimately. I think if he would have bought the shares in the club if he'd had the opportunity. He would have taken ownership of the club if he had the opportunity. Indeed, he said many times in the past he wanted to take ownership of the club. And Arsenal wouldn't have the same problem that, say, Chelsea have, and that he's actually a permanent resident in the UK as well.
Yeah.
But I think that it is worrying. The only thing you can say of it's worrying from the point of view of, if you look at all the clubs he's running, and we've talked about this in the past, if you look at all the clubs Stan is in charge of in America, there's not one of them that you go, yeah, he's pumping money into that club and they're doing really well. And most of the time you go, well, they're running a shoestring.
Yeah.
Well, a shoestring, and a shoestring in terms of how a big club is run.
Right, and the summer business as well, there hasn't been a huge amount going on. Not actually at most clubs in the top six. It's been fairly quiet, bar for Liverpool. Bar maybe the exception of Wiltshire going at last. It's been fairly quiet. I don't know whether you look at that as actually a good thing, maybe a bit of stability. He just works with the players that are there, or it's maybe they actually needed some fresh blood.
Well, he's bought something like 5 players. He's bought the Uruguayan midfielder from Sampdoria. Torreira, yeah. He's bought him. Liechtensteiner was a free transfer. That should help shore up the defence. He's brought in a couple others. He's a new goalkeeper, obviously, from
Leno. Leno.
Yeah, and there's a couple others whose names escapes me at the moment, Ralph. But anyway,
you're very excited about them, anyway, I presume.
Well, I'm excited. It's just good to see that Arsenal have signed more than 1/2 players and said, "Oh, we tried to get 10 other big name players, but it just didn't work out for us." Like in the past, how that great season that I remember well, where they were on about buying Higuain for ages, and then they didn't buy him. Now they did. I think they did. Was it Özil they bought? No, Sanchez they bought. But they spent the whole season talking about looking to buy Higuain, and they were getting him and they weren't getting him, and then he moved to Juventus. But or was it Napoli? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I suppose that it's nice to see that Arsenal have bought players in areas that needed strengthening. I mean, if you look at the team in terms of actual star players, there's plenty of big name players at the front. If you go at the front, if you look at Özil, you've got Aubameyang.
You're almost there now after about a year.
I've been practicing all summer. You've got Lacazette is a good player, even though he didn't go to the World Cup or anything. He has the makings of a good striker. So I think that you would be pleased with the transfers done, because what we've been told over and over is Arsenal don't actually have that much money to spend. I think it was 50 million was the number I heard been thrown around. So you'd be pleased that money was spent. And the other thing is, we've seen many players for Arsenal burst onto the scene. Bellerin is a perfect example where everyone's going, geez, this guy's amazing, Barcelona are interested, etc., etc., only for them to disappear. So, and then you go, well, maybe the natural talent is there, but just they weren't being developed in the way that they needed to be developed. So, with a new coach, you just don't know. You look at the effect Pep Guardiola had at Man City with some of the players they had, that we would all go, oh, Sterling is the perfect example. I mean, we all knew Sterling was a great player, but we probably would have all agreed this time last year that, City had probably paid more than they should have for him, though we wouldn't say that now. So Arsenal have a lot of players there that he could work with, a lot of young players and a lot of mid-20 players that he could do something with. So I would think that he was better off signing a few rather than looking to completely change, because, I mean, when you look at Arsenal's strike force, there's great potential there. Yeah.
And certainly they were linking up well at the end of last season, Lacazette and Aubameyang as well.
So I'd be pretty pleased. I mean, we know Arsenal aren't going to win the league this year, but I think there's the opportunities there to certainly challenge for a Champions League place.
Yeah. For a prediction then, before I let you go, obviously we'll be doing the proper World Cup preview next week when all the lads come in.
Premier League preview, Raf.
What did I say?
World Cup preview. You have to let it go, Raf.
Yeah, I have to let it go. Sorry, Premier League preview.
I mean, I'd be a lot more optimistic about, as an Arsenal supporter going into this season, than say, it's obvious enough to say, but like Chelsea. Chelsea is a club that... Chelsea remind me of Arsenal, a couple of years ago, where you'd be going into the new season going, oh God, where they're talking about is players leaving rather than who they might be buying, that kind of way.
Yeah.
Even though they have a new manager and everything, it's just be hard to be difficult to be excited for what's going on at Chelsea at the moment. But I think there's reason for optimism at Arsenal, but equally, as always, plenty of pessimism now that we have a sole owner.
Yeah, it's not. It's probably the worst news that could have been delivered ahead of the new season. Anyway,
well, it's just that like his track record so far with club investment, etc., isn't good, and the fact that he lives in America means that the guy can pretty much do whatever he wants, and is almost, there's almost a wall there between him and the club, and that he can hide away from any criticism because he's not around.
Yeah, and there was a thing
that different if he was living in the UK all the time or living in London, and there was protests about the club. Well, that would be kind of embarrassing for him, but you're sheltered from all that when you're living in America, in my opinion. So,
yeah, and it was Robbie Lyle's point as well, that does Stan Kroenke actually get up and think about Arsenal if that's a realistic thing, if that's the first thing on his mind when he wakes up in the morning? Probably not. Probably not,
and I don't think as Arsenal fans, you're not looking for somebody to come in and that's going to say, right, well, some people are, but you're not looking for a billionaire to say, right, there's 500 million to go out and spend on players that might have been done in other clubs. But you're looking for a manager who's willing to try and get the club back to the level it once was. If you're looking for an owner who's willing to try and get the club back to the level it was once operating on, where, Arsenal were one of the big spenders in the league. And I know, you see, like the likes of Man City didn't need to spend a lot of money this year because they've already invested in the club.
Yeah.
They bought players, and you don't need to spend loads of money every year. And I don't think Arsenal fans are looking for huge amounts of money, but you need the constant money being pumped in. We don't want to go back to the days where Arsenal spent 10 million on a goalkeeper in pre-season and say, right, that's it, that's all we're spending this year.
No, certainly not.
And because the thing about it is that the club is asset rich. But, I mean, even the question is, like, what's he actually doing with the money he's using to buy the club? I mean, he's buying out the rest of the shares, but is he buying them with his own money, or is he taking out a loan, and then that loan, the club almost takes on that loan? Like, that whole Manchester United Glazier scenario that we had a few years ago that was cause of much angst from United fans.
Yeah. Although I think more of the angst is self-created now at Man United by Jose Mourinho and his demeanour. But
about that next week, Raf.
More about that next week. We'll let you drive off to wherever you need to drive off to now. Thanks for...
home from Mayo.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to Mayo, who are not even involved in the championship this year. They're gone out now anyway. But Joe, thanks for coming on, and that's it for this week's show. So, see you.
Raf, we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, take it away, Johan.